Right.
But the Journal Times is coming right out, and you know, I give them credit. They're saying it's under Mason. It's not under Letney. So they took it the final step and said, no, this is Mason that is closing the doors on open government.
And you know, it's
Hi, welcome back to Talking Racine. I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host of Talking Racine, flanked by Mr. George Myers.
Good morning.
And Mr. Jim Spodek, noted producer.
Brings forth the truth.
Yeah, he's a truth
That's what
bearer.
he does. That's what he does.
You know, you hear us complaining a lot about stuff that's going on in Racine that we feel is indicative of corruption, with good reason. But our folks up to the north, they got their own little situation going on up there. Ernell Lucas, who was just voted in as chair. Anyway, Ernell Lucas was elected, and he hires the 20-year-old son of the district attorney to an $85,000 a year job. The kid's 20 years old. He's knocking down $85K. I mean,
chief of staff for the sheriff of Milwaukee.
this is going to ruin that kid. He's not.
He figures 85 grand should be starting salary.
Oh my God! Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, so you think we got it bad here, Milwaukee? Well, we still got.
But we do have it bad.
Yeah,
because
yes,
you know we've got some hirings of our own here that are a little bit tainted, to say the least. You know, we got a. Back in the day, I remember Steve Olson was a buddy of mine. I knew Steve Olson pretty well. He was the mayor of Racine back in the 80s. Good guy. And it was like the mayor and his secretary, and they looked after the community. They made sure that the city was running correctly. And, you know, that was it. It was a two-person office.
The mayor's office, yep.
Now, through the years, it's grown.
You've got the mayor, you've got the administrator, you've got two or one and a half, supposedly, or two secretary
yeah.
or assistant people. You've got a I don't know, a Powell. I don't know exactly what his term is.
Oh yeah, what are the names, the titles for these people?
Well, you've got an innovation officer and strategic initiatives and community partnerships officer.
Yeah, read that one again. Strategic initiatives and partnership officer.
Community partnership officer. And then we're going to have a to be determined as a sustainability and conservation officer position. Now this is all going to go under the mayor's office. So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4 more staff outside of the secretary or administration.
Outside of the secretary and the administrator,
right? Or
the secretaries and the administrator, right. Plus 4.
But I want to just kind of go down and look at who are the hirees and how they got hired. And
well, Shannon Powell was one of them.
Correct.
Shannon Powell's a young man who.
Right. Now, we went back and on episode 68, we talked a little bit about this. Now, this is back in when the city was allocating $900,000 out of the intergovernmental fund for job training. And we actually had Ola on the show.
By Yahweh, I think.
Right. He was on the show and he was talking about, yeah, you know, how come this money is being filtered out of intergovernmental fund? I've been doing jobs programs. I haven't had it.
I could use a little support, is what he was saying.
Right.
And I agree with him, and I support that concept.
So he actually, after the show, actually did receive some of the funding, but it was $900,000 for jobs. Now, $500 was for outside contractors. That was to a Milwaukee firm, and that was one of the rubs with Ola. $275 was to RCEDC, which would have been administrative costs, and then another $125,000 to the city attorney's office for who knows what.
Did he go to the city attorney or outside attorneys consulting? It's not really clarified here.
I think it was the city's attorneys, internal city attorneys. But out of that $275,000, that was supposed to be administration, or the $500,000, we're not quite sure. Shannon Powell gets hired by the RCEDC.
Yes.
And with full benefits, plus $30 an hour, but yet is hired for the city of Racine as an assistant to Mayor Corey Mason. That was the first one. Now
he was actually hired by RCEDC, correct?
He originally was, I understand, worked for RCEDC.
Yeah.
But it was kind of known that was kind of a setup, because then eventually that kind of paved the way for him to be shifted over into the mayor's office.
Almost
although there was a denial that that was ever intended.
So I got a little video that we.
Gee, I'm so surprised.
Yeah. So I think what happened here, now this video, and we'll kind of go through it a little bit, but
I just like to look at those figures just a minute more.
Yeah.
$900,000 for jobs, folks.
Yeah.
$900,000 for jobs. Now, and $125,000 was just for lawyers. Now, what have lawyers got to do with jobs? See, so you've taken that huge amount. Then you take another $275,000, which is more than 50% of the $500,000. It's more than half, and that is just to administer the program to get the jobs.
correct.
Administer the 500,000.
Administer the 500,000. Or it's just, you talk about wasteful spending or out of balance spending. It's just amazing. I mean, it's
only wasteful if it doesn't
where the
work.
money goes.
But here's the thing, George. It's not about you know, we cut street lights, we do all these services reductions, and we give raises to the staff, but it's not about, it's about protecting and hiring another. This really ended up hiring a staff member for Corey Mason. That's what it was really, I think, a lot about. Yeah, they put some money to the jobs program. I'm sure it's being administered. Of course, we can go into Foxconn. You know, our EDC brought us Foxconn. So I want to play this video here, and we can stop and we can kind of talk about it. But this was the meeting where that $900,000 was being allocated.
You're saying the $900,000 centered around Shannon Powell and getting him over to the mayor's, which really takes it to another ridiculous extreme.
Yep.
But even when I first heard about that, you know, where you have $900,000 for jobs, I can understand $900,000 for jobs, and we've got our CEDC. They should be just, you know, it fits into their program. They spend
it's a county program. Why are we?
But no, instead of, you know, them just handling the $900,000, no, they're going to take $275,000 out of for their own staff. And then to throw $125,000 over to the city, that was looking strangely like a way to fund this new attorney that they wanted to hire at the time.
Yep.
You know, through a jobs program.
Creative accounting, they call it.
It's creative programming. Yeah, it's amazing what goes on, and how this money gets wasted. And you wonder why you're spending $80 million a year on taxes for the little bit you get for street cleaning and that type of stuff. Well, there's where it goes.
All right, we're going to break this down so we can kind of look at that, and then I want to move on to some of these other people.
Yeah, go ahead and flip that video on.
I'm telling you, if we blow it this time, this uplift 900, if we could get 900 people off of the unemployment line and things like that, this is going to be a heck of a place. We got that opportunity, so I hope.
Okay, what he's talking about is he talks about 900 people. Yeah, there are 900 people they assume
that were unemployed.
Well, that's a target that they want to get 900 employed.
Right, but they also had $900,000, and that's what he's talking about. We better get that money, you know, allocated for this today, because we better hurry up, because we're falling behind on Foxconn, and you know, great things are happening. And
but he knows at this point.
It's bogus. He knows that this guy's being hired.
This is a means to get Shannon Powell into the mayor's office.
He knows it.
He knows it.
He knows it. And now there's going to be a question by Alderman Lemke asking.
She also knows.
Yes, she very strongly appears to understand what's going on behind the scenes.
So just watch their eyes as they go back and forth. By the way, this is very unusual in the Common Council. All communication is supposed to be addressed to the chair.
Right.
It's very interesting that they.
Why doesn't the chair want to address this?
Yeah. Where they're going back and forth between each other. That's allowed at the committee of the whole, but it's not allowed at the Common Council meeting. But let's go ahead with it.
May I ask the follow-on question?
Sure.
So I kind of had a more drilled down question. So we talked about consulting services. Will all the services be consulting services, or will there be new positions related to this? Okay,
this is where Melissa just asked a question. Are we hiring an employee?
Yeah.
And now Q's response. QH Coors response.
She knows that's what's going on.
Absolutely.
She's asking it now. Yeah, look at the look on her face, too.
She's stressed. Are we going to lie here?
That would be hard to say, but we will go along, and we will determine what we need as we go along.
Internally?
No, well, yes, we could do that because we're getting quarterly reports, and what we need to make sure that this thing works is to bring whatever we need to the table and pull whatever we need to pull out of the toolbox.
I guess I'm asking.
You see how he's shifting around? They both know what they're talking about. Are we trying to really bring somebody new into the mayor's office? This is an internal thing.
Well, no, unless we decide
we're going to do it a step at a time, and we'll figure out what we need as we go along.
Toolbox. We'll put a toolbox.
As circumstances evolve, we have to adjust to the present-day context that has arrived at the table which we're working at. And we'll do whatever we need to do to expedite this whole program for the benefit of the community.
We're going to do whatever we need to do in order to get done what we need to do.
Which is to hire the person for Christ.
Okay,
well, beautiful. The shuffle is just really good here.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact is that what they're doing is basically illegal. What you're doing here is hiring a person through this jobs program for Corey Mason, which is not being explained to the Common Council or to the public.
Yeah.
Are there proposed new positions as a part of this?
It could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be. Well, maybe.
He's leaving the door open.
We're not sure. Well, as time goes on.
You're spending $900,000. Well, it could be. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, oh my God.
Now comes the real shuffle. Now, if you can understand this next sequence of words, it's very good.
Now Corey Mason steps in to kind of like clarify.
If I can interrupt just for a point of clarification. So these are not contracted services to create permanent positions within city staff. To do so would require something separate outside the budget.
Okay.
And it has a separate charter requirement to accomplish that. That's not what's intended here.
Okay, for the edification of our viewers, play that one more time so they get a real clear understanding of what our mayor is saying.
If I can interrupt just for a point of clarification. So these are not contracted services to create permanent positions within city staff. To do so would require something separate outside the budget.
Okay.
And it has a separate charter requirement to accomplish that. That's not what's intended here.
And he said it's not about making a permanent hire.
No.
It's not.
Not about a permanent hire.
Clarified that. Absolutely not.
So what he basically did was, on the bench, he bold-faced lied. That was a bold-faced lie.
Sure seemed that way to me.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, not a permanent hire. You hired him. He's permanent. He came in, and he's on the job.
When somebody does something like that, too,
The
aftermath is to try and cover it up, and it's that type of activity when a person engages in that now he has to be able to start closing up the government and keep things secret. And that's going to be one of the things that he's forcing himself into that position. In other words, we just can't have really open government anymore.
No, we slipped. When
you're going to do stuff like that, you just can't.
It's a jobs program, but it's a job that I'm going to benefit from because I'm going to hire an assistant for me.
Jobs for people that I know and like.
Right. Well, then let's go back. There's some stuff here with some emails here of Shannon talking about Corey. I mean, back in, he's a, I don't know, what do you want to call him, a political
hack.
He's endorsing the idea of Rebecca Mesa being elected as municipal judge. She had been municipal judge before Corey was elected, and really, he makes one legitimate point here, that the fact that the judge and the mayor are married is pretty much verboten in state statutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not kosher. Now, we discussed that last week. Now, what he's saying is, well, I mean, Rebecca Mesa was the judge before Corey ran for mayor, so somebody should have brought it up then. Well, I mean, people running for office should know what the restrictions are on that office.
Right. Well, the thing is that he's very supportive.
Well, we got away with it before. Why is it a problem now?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's just.
I mean, I'm proud to say I spent 20 hours knocking the doors in the past 4 days between Racine for my boss, Chris Larson, who was a Democrat in Milwaukee, and soon-to-be Senator Randy Bryce. I mean, very, very, very Democratic. Very much in it. Very much a political hack for basically for Corey Mason. We're not talking about is he the best guy for the job? I don't know. There was no job description that was put out that actually had people that were able to get an application and go apply, because this guy was brought in because he was Corey's buddy.
Well, one of the things that I'm concerned about now, and I think one of the things that this Shannon was originally brought in for was like public relations.
Yeah, I think that's
one of the things that I'm concerned about is that public resources are being used in an attempt to shape that city council to be supportive of the mayor's agenda.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're actually, I'll just say it, they're campaigning for specific people to be elected.
Yep.
And that ain't kosher.
No.
And they're doing it.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like taking this mayor's office from 3 people up to 7 people, it looks like the last 4 people were pretty much in the realm of holding the mayor into his position. In other words, they're going to help him get reelected.
Well, Madison. Let's go to the next one. William Martin, our new
innovation officer.
Yeah. Comes from the Department of Workforce Development and WIDA, and he serves as project manager for Smart City, and he apparently he's going to serve as project manager for Smart City Initiative, for Foxconn.
Oh, and other changes related to Foxconn.
Right.
Yeah. So they're still hanging their hat on this Foxconn dream.
But again, a Madison connection for Corey. He brings him down. I mean, I'm sure it's 30 plus an hour and full benefits. Then we got Vicki Selko, Strategic Initiatives and Community Partnerships Officer. And she's going to start in March. She's got 20 years experience. Now again, I mean, we pulled up some stuff on her. And I mean, matter of fact, Corey wrote, why is Vicki Selko the best candidate? She ran for office in 2011. Totally connected to the Democratic Party.
She, you go back a step, William Martin, at least, his background, and he's working with minorities, and he wants to get the 900 people that are unemployed, get them reemployed. That would have some legitimacy if it stays away from politics. I'm afraid it's not going to stay away from politics, though, and that's going to bury his efforts into that political arena rather than just getting people jobs. But you go back, then you go to the next one, Vicki Selko, and now we're back to pure politics. That's in line with Shannon Powell. It's getting somebody in there to keep abreast of all the political happenings.
Well, it becomes partisanship rather than public service.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And I object to that from both sides.
Yeah. Now here it says, and this is what Corey Mason wrote. Vicki is also the kind of person who says to me, Walker isn't letting our constituents into the Capitol. We should move our desk out through the window so we can meet with them.
Wait, that was her idea?
That was Corey. Corey,
I thought it was Corey Mason that thought up
Really not.
Vicki, so he had a brainer. We've got to figure out some new ideas. What can you do for me down here, Vicki? Oh my gosh!
It was actually kind of a fun episode of him moving his desk out.
Oh my gosh! But anyway, the fact is that these are all connections. These are all. This is not.
This is a bloated budget and a bloated staff. Are you guys going to get anything done? Well, who's going to review it? Who's going to look back on a year or two and say, well, you guys did a bang-up job. You were well worth the investment that we put forth.
No one, I mean, we go back to this 900,000 that was kind of snuck through the Common Council. Now, there was a few aldermen that apparently knew. QH Cornus and Melissa Lemke knew. But the rest of them are probably in the dark. Maybe they didn't, but I think they probably were. They thought this was a jobs initiative when all of a sudden Powell shows up as a employee.
Yeah, he just kind of transitions into a full-time employee for the mayor.
Now, he pops up here. One of the things here is there's a police study done, and there was no authorization. Now, Corey Mason did a police study after Chief Howe had a study done, which he asked for the amount to do it. It was allocated to it. It came back. It was not very
complimentary.
Yeah. Have you read the results of that study?
I haven't had a chance.
Have you read the results of that study, George? I haven't been able to find it.
No. Well, we'll get it. But the fact is that
apparently
Corey Mason,
morale was reported very low.
Very low. Corey Mason says, you know, we're gonna get a study done. Well, he goes out and does it himself. He spends
without authorization of the council.
Authorization over $100,000. Now, the interesting part is this is a quote that Alderman Widener expresses concern that there was no bidding process. The contract was not put out for bid, and what was the amount of money allocated for this contract? Which this is the thing. The city's attorney's office. Now we're talking about Scott Letney again. Doesn't need to consult the council before assigning the contract per local ordinance or its bidding necessary, as it would be for like a road repair contract. Shannon Powell, a spokesman for the mayor, said. Well, we picked up the
except it's counter to the statutes.
Right, the statute. That's absolute malarkey.
That's not the truth. In other words,
absolutely not. That's professional services. You have to go out. You have to bid. You have to bring in Corey Mason went out and spent $100,000 plus, probably, at will.
So anyway, the report is reportedly done. It's been completed. It's been paid for.
Right.
But the results have never been made public, and they've never been shared with the city council.
Correct.
So,
was the actual amount spent ever disclosed? I think that was
not totally, but I mean the rumor is it's over $100,000.
Yeah.
Now that would have been what the mayor basically went out, spent $100,000 without authorization.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's way over the limit.
Now you've got Shannon Powell coming out and talking for the attorney's office.
Yeah.
There's a question there. Why isn't the attorney talking? You know, who's protecting who here, and why?
It just looks like a big nest of people that are protecting each other. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and this is one of the that's really one of the questions I kind of brought up was
what was Shannon Powell's? What is his role?
I don't know exactly. He's the right-hand man to the mayor, I guess. I don't know. I mean, he's got a couple secretaries, but he's the communications
assistant mayor for political purposes, because the right-hand mayor or the left-hand to the mayor for running the city is Jim Pelinek, the city administrator. Yeah.
But
now, all who's left now is politics.
But who's going to do the dirty work? I guess the thing is, when now they're using Shannon Powell addressing issues that the attorney's office should address. You know, there's something going on.
Well, it's easier for him to BS the public,
right?
Because he's not directly involved with what he's.
And if I am BSing it, I mean, the attorney's going to come out and actually lie. You know,
that's the thing.
They know damn well that this should have been authorized.
But Shannon Powell said there's no bidding necessary.
Right.
Now, it's all right for him to say that because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right.
So it's not deliberate lying. It's just it's lying. It's still lying. You know.
Right.
But it's not deliberate. But the point is he's saying something that is not true, and he can get away with it because he doesn't know that it's not true.
Well, you're assuming he didn't know.
Well.
Okay, I got a question. Okay, is Mason protecting Letney?
Well, I think what's happening down there is they're circling the wagons, so there's like a mutual protection society going on down there, and why that's happening is we've got very serious beliefs as to why that's happening.
Right.
But it takes a while to ferret out all the information and prove it. And that's what we try to ongoingly do here.
I would say fundamentally, I'd answer that question as no, because Mason doesn't protect Letney. Letney protects Mason. So Mason Letney is supposed to be out there taking the blows for the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Mason wants it done. Letney is his executioner, not of the mayor, but of the executing the job. In other words,
right.
But in terms of protection, I mean, he should be calling Letney to task for what he has done in his action against Sandy Widener.
But no, he wants it done.
I know he does, but he should be taking the task for that because what he's doing is wrong.
The point is that's not the way politics works. You take the president or the mayor or the governor that wants it done. He hires somebody.
Right.
The hitman is what it's called. He's the one that goes out and does it. So he takes the hit, and if things crumble, well, the guy who is the Secret Service guy protecting the agent, he takes the bullet. And at that type of thing. Letney is supposed to take the bullet. Now, if Letney fails in this, and doesn't protect the mayor,
which is happening right now.
Yeah, he's apt to find himself out of a job. He's apt to find himself taking the fall now.
Well, with the information he knows, will he take that fall, or will he?
Well, that's where it gets really messy.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden the servant, goes back against the master and says, "No, he put me up to it.
Right.
I'm just the fall guy.
I mean,
he
if
wanted
there
me
was,
to do it." Now it gets really dirty, and that's where the politics really gets deep, because now it's going to pile on Letney as nothing but a liar, and and all the crap really starts to get thrown around, and that's what don't want happening, and it's apt to happen if things like this opinion paper from the Journal-Times, guys, they kind of scooped us here. Under Mason and Hansen, that's the district attorney, secrecy flourishes. Now, we've been very careful at this. We've been saying that Letney has been the source of all these window shade pulling and door closing and keeping things secret. But
he's the guy that facilitates it all. But he
gets it done.
Yeah.
And we've said, but he can't be. It was inconceivable to me that he'd be doing this on his own, without backing of the mayor. He's just not going to step out there and do something like that isn't authorized behind the scenes.
Right.
But the Journal-Times is coming right out, and I give them credit. They're saying it's under Mason. It's not under Letney. So they took it the final step and said, no, this is Mason that is closing the doors on open government.
And it's not only the Journal-Times. The Wisconsin Freedom of Information Council came out and said, how is this happening? And they used the term, Mason is sitting on his hands. Why is he sitting on his hands? And that's really my question. I think you're right, George. I think Letney is the hit man, and as soon as his foundation is whittling away on him, and when he does take that fall, where's it going to go? Because it's coming.
But what their position is that Mason should be calling Letney to task. Like I said,
I agree with you.
He should be. But the fact that he's not is indicative that they're working in concert.
Exactly right, Doc. Exactly right. And I'm only saying that it's out of position to think that Mason is protecting Letney. That's not his job. The job is for the small guy to protect the big guy.
Yeah.
That's the order of gaining bullets.
Gaining bullets.
Yeah. Well, and then there's always the political.
Let's keep the Second Amendment out of this. It could turn into a messy conversation.
But then again, you're rewarded as time goes on.
Absolutely. If Letney can pull this off and protect Mason and everything goes by and we'll get through all this mess, and they say, well, what a wonderful job, what a wonderful city, everything's fine, we have open government. See,
yep.
It really is open.
Well, he's kind of giving him he's giving him a blank checkbook. I mean,
absolutely.
Mason should be asking Letney too, why are you hiring these outside attorneys, and why are these costs that you're generating through that effort not being accounted for, and why isn't the city council being asked for their approval of that? I mean,
you know why.
Well, yeah, we know why, but I mean,
he
should be doing it. Yeah.
The reason he's not doing it is because he's authorizing it.
Right.
That's how I.
Right. So this runs a lot deeper than Letney. I mean, even though Letney's the hit man, as you put it, it runs up the ladder, and I think this actually goes further than Mason. I think this goes up further, because think about it. Why would not some political enemy of Mason come forward and say, hey, listen, why is this going on? Why is there no backlash from other politicians, including Republicans?
Well, I was going to say, you would think that the Republicans would be his enemy, because he openly campaigns and declares himself to be a Democrat. And yet, these guys are all working in concert together.
Why?
It's like a bipartisan conspiracy.
Well, they do need each other. If they're going to continue to accumulate power within government, they need each other. Yeah, that's true. It's the old story of one lawyer in town and he's broke. Get two lawyers in town and they both get rich.
Exactly.
The thing is that I think that I'm not quite sure who's going to come to his rescue. I'm not sure how much higher it can go.
Well, I think there's tax credits. Tax credits on Machinery Row. That's never been really fleshed out the way it should. I mean, there's tax credits that went all the way to Madison. And all of a sudden the tax credit program up in the
Which
Capitol.
the Republicans were involved with.
They drop all of a sudden those hands off. They're like on fire. We're not touching that anymore. Well, why? Because because of the fraud down here in Racine, and that fraud, it's all of it. Why hasn't the
it's
why hasn't
all
the
of
sheriff?
these failed projects, and Foxconn now looks like the.
And why hasn't the
big
sheriff's
one.
department? There's a criminal complaint there. There's been no action on a year and a half. That's awful unusual. I mean, is there a complaint?
It's going on 2 years.
Yeah, is there a complaint? No, it just lays out there and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. Something's real wrong.
Well, anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for today. So, thanks for being here. We'll be back next week. We hope you are too. In between now and then, have a wonderful life.